Welcome to the GTP. My name is Scott, where we talk all things manga, and I'm so excited to show you this very special, unique manga haul for the month of May with over 120 volumes with many that are out of print and some that are expensive and hard to find that I found at a great price. So sit back, relax, and let's go ahead and dive in. But before we get started with all the out of print goodness, in the comments below, I'd love to know, what did you pick up or what are you currently reading from the month of May? So let's go ahead and first start off with ongoing or missing titles that I received from Viz Media. And the first is Yozakura Family Mission. Now this title is, if you like Spy X Family, you're going to love this series. It has a very similar vibes. Don't know if it's on par with Spy X Family, but it's still very good. It scratches that same itch. It has that comedy, has the action. This is a series I've thoroughly enjoyed, and it's probably one of my favorite series that came out last year from Viz Media. Next I picked up was Sakamono Days Volume 7. This also was one of my favorite releases to come out last year from Viz Media. This has to do with, there's some comedy, there's action. You have our main character Sakamoto, who was assassin, now he's retired. He's might have put on a few pounds, working at a convenience store, but he has a family that he loves, and somehow the past comes back to haunt him over and over. So if you're looking for action and comedy sprinkled throughout, this is a great shonen that's currently ongoing. Next, I picked up the last 2 volumes I needed for a series that I've been waiting for so long. It has a hit drama now on Netflix, and that is Kimi ni Tokuri From Me to You. Here's volume 9 and volume 24. It's the last 2 I needed. Here's something I recommend if you're wondering for a series, if it's going to be out anytime soon, but you want to still get it at a good price. I saw that the entire series finally had restocked dates on Barnes & Nobles. They're several months out, so I said, man, I got to get this series now. So I ended up ordering the entire series from Dakar Cafe. And sure enough, as you've seen from my other hauls, they've shipped all the volumes I need except for the 2 that were missing. And the biggest one was that darn 9, which took a while to come out. And what's interesting, volume 9 actually is an Italian print. The rest of them I don't believe were printed in Italian. So I wonder if that was the reason why we got all the other volumes sooner, except for volume 9, which was just restocked recently. Next from Viz Media, another shown title on the similar lines. If you like Sakamono Days, that came out in December, I think 2021, and that is Kaiju number 8. This is another action series. They're fighting these kaiju, which are these monsters, and it's just, the main character is just so likable. As he starts off with kind of the janitor of kaiju. His job is to clean up the aftermath when a kaiju is down. Not the greatest job. I mean, it makes sense. If there's a monster that's dead carcass, someone has to go inside of it, someone has to clean it up from the city, and that is his starting job. But he has this dream for more, as there's just this wonderful gal that he's always wanted to work side by side with, and it's fun seeing the dynamics, the struggles, as he is gaining these new abilities and trying to figure out life now to build with these new powers, how he can come alongside the love of his life. At least it's showing us, I think, kind of, giving us a little wink that maybe they'll get together. We don't know. But great series overall. If you like Sakamono Days, if you like the Mission is Sakura Family, this is another one around the same lines you're going to enjoy as well. Next up is Undead Unluck Volume 11. I ended up picking up this series. I got the rest of the volumes in my last haul. That was because of seeing it make the #1 from Roger Base, of saying that this is considered the best series of all time right now. I strongly disagree. I think it's Witch Hat Atelier from last year should have been the best series, but I could be very well wrong, so I picked this up so I can read the series to see were they right, and maybe I'm just completely missing it. Next I picked up was Love is War. This is volume 25 out of 27. This is by the same author of Oshi no Ko, which is a huge hit series that is currently, the anime is out, as well as volume 1 and 2 of the manga. Highly recommend Oshi no Ko if you like that series and you want to check out what the author did before. This is another very popular series. A lot of mind games that are being played. Do they love each other? Do they not? Do they both love each other? But they don't want the other person to know. Find out it by checking out Love is War. Next up, we're wrapping up a series, Dr. Stone. This is volume 25 of, I believe, 26 total. We're nearing the end of this journey as we're finding out what might be going on. You see, it looks like, you know, it might be going to space. Not sure if that's a big spoiler alert, but we're finally nearing the end of this series, and I'm having mixed feelings. Dr. Stone was so strong out, and towards the end, it just felt a little rushed. All of a sudden, things that took several chapters or even a whole volume to solve, now is just solving within a few chapters now. All of a sudden, it's not hard to travel. So I'm excited to just see the ending, and I hope it's worth it. The conclusion, I really, really hope it's a satisfying conclusion. And once the last volume releases, I think it's going to be next month, I can give you some of my final thoughts on Dr. Stone. Next up is another series I absolutely love, and this one was no exception, and that is Komi Can't Communicate Volume 24. This is cozy. If you're looking for a series where you just want to relax, have a good cup of coffee or tea, Komi has it in spades. It's cozy, it's funny. There's times that I was laughing out loud, and there's also times I even got a little emotional with this volume, but this has a special place in my heart, and I believe it could as yours as well. Can't recommend enough. Komi Can't Communicate. Next up is a series that seems to get better with each volume, and that is Dan to Dan Volume 3. And what I like about this series, it might not be as much of a story, but the panels are just phenomenal. And as the story progresses, the panels seem to be getting even better. Reminds me of just some of the panels that you would see from Chainsaw Man. There's a few that I'm just staring at in awe instead of the story itself. It's like I'm being immersed in the panels of the artwork. Now, this story has to deal with this boy who believes in aliens, the girl believes in ghosts, and then they try to prove each other wrong to show which one really exists. And the truth to find out is, both exist. So you get to see these hijinks as you're seeing this boy and girl now have to deal with the fact of not only having to fight aliens or having to fight ghosts, but they're having to beat both at the same time. Next up is the last volume for Dead Damon's DDD Destruction. So this series is by the same author as Goodnight Pun Pun. This story, I believe, is getting an anime adaptation. It's one that, because I knew there's only a couple more volumes out, I decided to wait. And now, because I have the last volume, I want to read this in a whole sitting and give you a thorough review of my thoughts on this story. And last I picked up from Viz Media is Record of Ragnarok Volume 6. This is a series that I didn't really enjoy at first, but the more I read it, the more I did enjoy it. This is a good, what I want to say is like a popcorn filler manga. This is a really good, it's just battle. If you want to read manga just because you really love the action and the battle scenes, this is the manga for you. If it's one that you can leave your brain at the door, you will be entertained. And entertained I was indeed when I read this, and I'm already looking forward to seeing the conclusion of this duel of him. Oh, it doesn't show the other guy. Of the other guy he's fighting right now, Hercules, and find out the epic conclusion of who win. Let's go ahead and now check out ongoing or missing Yen Press titles, and the first being Emmett's in Shadow Volume 6. This is a comedy isekai fantasy series. I've never had this before, but I just saw one panel and I was laughing out loud, and I said, man, I gotta check out this series. So if you want to know more, actually, if you click the eye in the right hand corner, you can see my thorough review of this series to decide whether or not it's worth for you. Speaking of isekai, the next series I got is another isekai. This is Re:Zero Frozen Bond number 3. I think it's the last of the prequel of Re:Zero. Re:Zero, the anime, is, everyone says, probably the best isekai anime. This is the manga adaptation, which is the adaptation of the light novel. I wanted to get the prequel. I haven't read the prequels yet, as I wanted to wait till I got all of the Frozen Bond, which I believe this being the third is now to check out. Re:Zero. Speaking of isekais, did somebody else say isekai? Why not? Speaking of this, oh, another isekai. The Saga of Tanya of Evil, Volume 19. If you like isekais, this is another one that is very popular. It's on the same tier people like, just slightly maybe less as Re:Zero. This is about a guy who ends up coming back and now he's a war general. Don't know what more to say on that. If you're looking for isekai, this is another one you may want to check out. Next from Yen Press, this is actually from their Eyes Press line. This is the manhwa, The World After the Fall, Volume 2. Now, Volume 1 I wasn't as excited about. It was kind of intriguing as you follow this guy going up this tower, and then at the end, he gets to the top of the tower. I don't want to spoil what happens at the top of the tower, but Volume 2 sold it for me, to the point that when I started reading Volume 2, I immediately grabbed Volume 1, as there's a few things I wanted to just be as fresh as possible, and I'm just sucked into the story. I already can't wait for Volume 3. If you're looking for something that scratches a little bit of that itch of soul leveling, but something that just, it's a completely unique story. There's things in the story I've not seen from other fantasy perspectives before, and I'm hooked in wanting to know more. Can't recommend it enough. You should check out The World After the Fall. Next up is probably one of my favorite series ongoing right now, and might be as surprised as you are, is why Rylena ended up in the Duke's mansion. This is just Volume 3. This is from Yen Press. The pages are all in color. This is almost like an isekai, but not, about this girl. She ends up falling to her death, but somehow wakes up in her favorite novel, and you're just following her as she wakes up as a side character. She remembers in the novel that the side character dies, and she has decided to put fate into herself that she is not going to be the side character that dies, which maybe that changes things. Maybe now she's the main character. Maybe she's not. What happened to the person who's supposed to be the main character? Is someone trying to go after her? You've got to check this out. I don't know. I can't gush about it enough. You'll see in a future video where actually I'm going to talk a little bit more about this series, but I can't recommend, if you are not even if you're on the fence, just pick it up. Pick it up. This is a phenomenal series. I'm absolutely in love with it. I cannot wait for Volume 4. Do yourself a favor after this video, go ahead and pick out this series if you've not already. Next up from Yen Press, this is another one on the Eyes Press line, and that is The Boxer Volume 2. Like The World After the Fall, I thought the Volume 1 was okay, but for some reason I was hooked in with Volume 2. And sorry to laugh a little bit, think of the hook, boxing term. This is very, very interesting. There is the focus of boxing, but there's also the focus of the other characters itself and outside the ring. And just this idea that not everyone is called to be the main character. And what do you do when you have trained all your life? You have given your best and it's still not good enough. And here someone else comes along who's never really done the sport before, and they just have the natural talent. They're just naturally gifted and they're able to do very well. Often in stories, we're rooting for the character who is not naturally gifted, and all of a sudden they do get a gift, or because of the power of friendship or getting to, finally never giving up, somehow they're able to pull through. And this story kind of does the opposite. Well, in real life, I could want to be a professional ballerina dancer. Do I look like I should be a ballerina dancer? Have I ever done it before? What if I tried for the rest, I believe, in the next 20 years to try to make it to Broadway to do ballerina? Probably wouldn't work out. How do you cope with that? How do you cope with where you have these dreams that may never become reality? And I think The Boxer is starting to explore that really well. So if that intrigues you at all, this is a series you need to check out. Last from Yen Press, from the Eyes Press line, this is another series like The World After the Fall. In The Boxer, I thought Volume 1 was okay, but this is the Remarried Empress Volume 2. I now get why Laura put this as her #1 in our video that we did of the top new releases for 2022. I read Volume 1, I thought it was okay, but I am very hooked into the political drama, wondering what's going to go on. I love the main character, as she's just not going to put up with other people's junk. Her husband all of a sudden decides it's okay to get a mistress. Why not? And now she has to play along, as she's worked really, really hard to be the queen, to be an upstanding queen, to learn everything to be an empress, and now some mistress comes along. She's not going to give them the satisfaction. Why should she give up her dream just because her husband decides to make some bad decisions? So I'm very intrigued to see what happens. I'm hoping and intrigued to see how she comes up on top. But this is a very interesting political drama series, and one that you would probably enjoy as well. Now, let's go ahead and check out ongoing or missing titles that I received from KODANSHA / their vertical line. And the first one being That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime Volume 21. This is such a fun series. I love the anime and I decided to get the manga. I've now read all the manga through 21 now. I'm actually currently writing a review to let you know more about this series, but just a little spoiler alert, I love this series. It's an isekai. It's probably one of my favorite isekais that's currently out. And what's neat is when you start to get to these later volumes, this actually goes past season 2. So you have a little more political drama. You still have in spades just from the comedy, the action, and you're just wondering how Lord Rimuru is going to do it again. What is it like becoming a demon lord? Such a fun series. It's such a good isekai. You know I like isekais. This is one I believe you are going to enjoy as well. If you like the anime, recommend checking out the manga. Now, what is a little scary is that this manga here is about volume 7 of the light novel. I think there's currently 18 light novels out. So this is volume 21 of volume 7 of the light novel. That means we have a ways to go, and this is going to be an investment, a very long series, but I'm in for the ride, and you should as well. And last, I picked up from Vertical / KODANSHA. This is one of my favorite series of all time. This is Blood on the Tracks, Volume 13. What is phenomenal, if you've followed just me talking about the series, you went from seeing the main character as a child, and what's neat when you get to these later volumes, you're now following the aftermath of what happened as a child, and you're actually seeing him as an adult. So many years had passed, and I'm still sucked in. My jaw is dropping. Many more things happen you don't expect. This is still on my top 10 of best series of all time. It made number 10 last time. It might move up in the ranks for my next one when I do it for 2023. It's definitely not for kids. If you struggle with trauma, there's a very manipulative trauma going on in the story, but it is so good, and I already can't wait to see what the conclusion is. I want to find out what's going to happen to him as an adult. It's often at times that we see characters make consequences, but we don't get to see the actions of those consequences of what happened. So this is interesting to see what happened as a child. How does that affect him as an adult? And how does that going to affect him in the long run? Let's go ahead and now check out ongoing or missing titles that I received from some smaller publishers. The first being our friends from Dark Horse. This is volume 11 of Lone Wolf and Cub, 3-in-1. Baby got buck, if I do say so myself. And volume 12. Now, earlier ago, I was so happy they reprinted 1 through 10, and they finally brought out volume 11 and 12 of this series. It is now complete. It is one that I can now read. I've been waiting a while. This was on my list of Out of Print series I was just so hoping someday to own, and I'm really glad that Dark Horse chose to go ahead and reprint the series. Next up is a title I got from Ablaze, and that is The Breaker, Volume 5. This is the conclusion of these 5 2-in-1 volumes of this Korean manhwa series. It's very good. It's one of those few series that once it comes in, I immediately want to pick up and read. Now, there is a part 2 called The Next Wave, and Ablaze has said that they're going to go ahead and they're going to be printing that as well. So I'm very excited to see the continuation of this story. This is a bit of a battle series. There's action. You're following this main character who it's not really much of himself, yet someone sees something in him, ends up encouraging him, helping support him, and then you see the main character, even in his weakness, be able to get strong and be able to help other people. And now you're seeing him try to want to protect his sensei. Very interesting series. It's unique, and it's one that I actually was surprised how much I enjoyed. So if you're on the fence, look more on my anime list about The Breaker. I know I'm not really selling it well, but I'm very much enjoy this. This probably would make in my top 10 through 20. This would probably be in that for the race. Next up, I got Gambling Apocalypse Volume 4. I have been waiting a very long time for this series from Dempa. This series, I actually pre-ordered it in 2021. So So I literally have waited almost 2 years for this pre-order to finally come in, and supposedly volume 5 is going to come out this year in a few months. Who knows if that will be, but this is a series. Because I was waiting for volume 4, I did not read volume 1, 2, and 3 because I thought this was just going to be really soon. I can read all 4 together. Haven't done that yet, but now because I have volume 4, I'm going to go ahead and start picking up and reading. Next up, I got 2 titles from 7 Seas. The first being Dia Dark Volume 5. This is from the same author as Dorohedoro. I've thoroughly enjoyed this series. It has a lot of dark humor. I mean, it says Dia Dark, but there is dark humor. I'm laughing out loud at some embarrassment of these antics. I don't want to spoil it, but this is probably one of the best ongoing series that are currently out. Definitely not for kids, but it is very entertaining. The artwork is stunning and is a very unique space story as you're following this main character whose rumor is that his bones will grant any wish. People are trying to constantly trying to go after the main character. He's friends with essentially the Grim Reaper, and it's such a fun, unique, interesting story with which I feel wrong, but I am laughing throughout the whole thing. Next up, I got a volume that I've been waiting for a while. This is the deluxe edition of Yokohama Kadashi Kiku. I might be not saying that correctly. This is, I believe it's a 2-in-1. Yeah, I think it's a 2-in-1. This is a series that's been on a lot of people's radar as one that they would love to see bringing out in English. Now, the first volume I believe it was number 5 of my favorite new releases come out through 2022. This is a slice of life series. It's one that I just almost kind of like Komi. It's cozy. It really makes you think. I feel like I'm almost reading like a Studio Ghibli film in a book form, as things are just a little more slower pace, but the story is just as good. You're involved in the characters, and what's so beautiful is that you get sucked in and not very many words need to be said for you to enjoy the series. So if you're looking for another good, wholesome, slice of life series that makes you even just reflect on your own life of what you've done, what you could have done, and what does it look like just to live life, and just because you don't have anything exciting happen, can you still enjoy life itself? I think you can, and this series just really does a good job making you feel that wholesome vibes. Let's go ahead and now check out New to Me series from Viz Media, which I only got 1, but it is a bit of a big one. I mean, they got all the volumes except for, I think, 5 or 6, and that is Kaechi. This series is a lot, let's just say it's kind of like an old school Demon Slayer or an old school Jujutsu Kaisen. This was around the same time as Rurouni Kenshin back in the day. Some of these volumes are much older. They have stickers that say Adult Swim. Now, this series is not out of print. It was a series that I was on the fence. After seeing that Viz Media is going to be raising their prices, I was like, you know what, this is a series I've been on the fence. Let's pick it up. Now, the last 5 or 6 volumes I need, they are currently out of stock, not out of print, meaning they're in between prints, so hopefully that means they will be reprinted this year. And then I'll actually have this whole series, and I'm not having to hunt down and wait, hopefully not a long time. If you've seen before, I have other series like Maggie, when I think this was around that same time. That series, I'm still waiting for 2 volumes for that to be reprinted, and it's been over 2 years. I'm hoping it's not the same for this, but I've been wanting to check out more of the old school series that came out. Now, what I am concerned a bit with this series itself is that some of these volumes are old enough where they're not as yellow as, or I'm sorry, not as white as some other series that come out, and I think that's just because a lot of them have been sitting and not been sold. So hopefully Viz Media is very, very kind and does reprint those last volumes I do need, and that this series will be complete and it's one I can read. It's also going to be on my radar, maybe to, if I see it affordable, the volumes I'm missing, I'll just pick it up and cross my fingers that this does reprint it. But I've been wanting to check out more of the older series. I like Shown Sunday lineup, and this is on that lineup. I'm wondering if I should try to collect all of Shown Sunday, since I got a lot of the Shown lineup series, except for A couple of them do have a lot of volumes, but that's all of Kodansha. Next, let's check out new to me series from Yen Press. And the first being Shadow House. I got volume 1, volume 2, and volume 3. You might be familiar with the anime that came out last year that was very popular for this series. This is a dark fantasy type of series as you're following this girl in this house with the shadows. I don't want to give too much more for spoilers, but it was one that I was intrigued. Had a very high rating on my anime list for a series that I didn't know too much about. And because they'll only have 3 volumes out now, with the 4th I think coming out in another month or 2, I said why not? Let's go ahead and give this one a try. Next from Yen Press, I got the box set First Stall of Toilet Bound. Now this one I'm not going to go too much into for you in depth here, except to tell you, go ahead and click the right hand corner and you can see my unboxing where I go into detail about Toilet Bound and help you decide whether or not you're going to want to pick up this box set. Let's go ahead and now check out new to me from KODANSHA/Vertical. And the first series I got was Welcome to Demon School. This was a great first volume. This was on my top 10 series of new releases for 2023 that I was hoping to come out, and I thoroughly enjoyed this volume. Now the anime does have 3 seasons. I haven't seen the anime, but I thoroughly enjoyed this first volume of the manga. It is quickly becoming one of my favorites as I immediately clicked. I was laughing, I'm engaged with the story, and I cannot wait to find out what happens to the main characters and his classmates along the way. So if you haven't seen the anime, if you're looking for a newer series to check out that doesn't really have anything, this is only the first volume. I think the second volume is not for another month or 2. I can't recommend this enough. I've really enjoyed this first volume, and I believe you as well. Next up from KODANSHA/Vertical, I picked up The Daily Lives of High School Boys. This is complete with 7 volumes. The reason why I picked up this series is I'm actually working on a script I did for a review of Grand Blue Dreaming, which they say is the #1 comedy manga of all time. And I was like, I wonder if there's any other really good comedy series, and maybe do a video talking about comedy series. And this was the second series that people recommend. If you like Grand Blue Dreaming, if you're looking for a comedy series, this is one you've got to check out. So because of that, I picked this up. I'm going to be reading it shortly so I can do just a review series talking about recommended comedy series for you to check out. Let's go ahead and moving on to smaller publishers. I picked up from 7 Seas. The first 6 volumes are actually out of 100 Girlfriends Who Really Love You. Now, this series, I ended up laughing out loud as I was reading just a synopsis of this boy who goes to the shrines 100 times begging for a girl, and it just never happens. And then he ends up finding out that there was an error in the way, and that now he has to say yes to all of them, or someone might not make it. So if you're looking for a comedy series, I know one of the manga panels went viral a couple months ago, so I was like, let's go ahead and check this out for myself. I'm always good for a laugh. I like these different type of comedy series. So because of that, I went and picked up the series. It's one that, because I have 6 volumes, I think it's enough that I can go ahead and we can do a thorough review in a future video for you. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, let's check out some out of print series that I picked up. Now the first one is cheating a little bit as some of the volumes are actually still in print, but I didn't want to do a little bit of those volumes and then a little bit not. So I'm just going to show to you first. I ended up getting from a surprise eBay. They had it where they wanted like $200, or they said or best offer. I gave a low best offer and they immediately said yes. So this is Eyes. So I got all 15 volumes of this, and what I was just shocked for this whole series is with Eyes is that the last volume, volume 15, is almost impossible to find. And the person who posted this also said it was brand new, and surprisingly, I'm not sure this has ever been read. Some of the pages were very hard just to open the binding. It didn't open as normal even for a new manga. You tell that this has not been read for a really long time. This is an older Shonen Jump series. It's one I've heard very good things about from the story, so it's one that was on my radar, but The reason why I wasn't going to pick it up is volume 15 usually goes for $150 itself. And I was like, there's no way that I'm going to pay $150 for this volume. And it, literally, again, I'm not sure if it's ever been read, as the binding's just very strong in this. Almost, it literally seems like it's brand new. So this is that beautiful, here's volume 15 of Eyes. It's a series I've had a lot of people recommend, and so I'm actually looking forward to checking this one out and giving you my thoughts. This is one of those ones I didn't even put on my wish list a long time ago of out of print series to maybe check out, because that 15th volume was so hard to find. But because someone posted on eBay and I was like, well, or best offer, I will give a best offer, and I was surprised they said yes. Next, from Out of Print, I got the entire 10 volumes from a series from Tokyo Pop. And that is one that has never been reprinted that I know of, and that is a series that I didn't even aware it was existent until someone told me about it, and that is called Dragon Head. Now, Dragon Head is a post-apocalyptic survival story, and I was shocked. This was another one where it was on eBay. I bid, I won, I was surprised, and it was fairly affordable. Or was no, sorry, this was Macari. This is Macari. I ended up doing it where I offered them the bottom line, the lowest from what you can offer, and I was surprised that they said yes, and they already dropped it several times. This series, for being out of print, feels really good. You know, the binding has a little bit where someone marked it here. That's okay, but I like post-apocalyptic survival stories. This is one that was recommended to me, so because of that, I was like, let's go ahead and check it out. And I was like, oh, I paid, I think, less than $10 a volume. So less than $10 a volume for a series that is completely out of print and hard to find. I thought that was a great takeaway. It's one I'm looking forward to checking out and maybe giving you some ideas whether or not this is one that you should seek out yourself. Next up is I picked up a series where most of the volumes are actually in print except for about 7. And it was a series that was one I was on the fence. It's from the same author as Fly Me to the Moon, and that is Hayate, the Combat Butler. This is another Shown Sunday one. So I thought at first, how hard is it to get these out of print volumes? And surprisingly, these out of print volumes were not too expensive. It's not a very as much popular series, but this is a slice of life, like a comedy series. And then as you go deeper into the story, it does have more of a story itself, and the further chapters have some arcs and has some seriousness to it. There's 50 volumes total for this series, and I think number 42 is about to come out in America. Again, I was talking about earlier where I was thinking about collecting, maybe can I get all of the Shown Sunday lineup. This is one of the few series that's on that list that's on the fence because of Viz is going to be increasing their prices. I was like, I don't want to pay 20% more for the series. Let's go ahead and just get this now. So because of that, I actually have ordered the entire series from Takara Cafe, except for these few volumes that were out of print. And my hope is at my next, let's see, June or July haul, I'll actually have the whole series and I can tell you much more about it. Okay, next is a series I actually have never shared this before, but it is a series that I have been looking up every day for almost a year, as it's one that I've been wanting to pick up, but I have not been able to see it at a good price. I've seen the individual volumes at a good price, but my goal was, what I was really hoping was to just get the whole series together, and been waiting for a good lot for that. But this one was just so affordable, as it was $40 for the first 8 volumes, so I had to say yes out of 10, and that is Juvenile Remix. Now these are library copies, but that's okay. They still feel pretty good in your hands. This is another one of those Shown Sunday series. Now I'm just missing volume 9, which goes online for $75, and volume 10, which goes for about $30. I don't want to pay $75 for a volume, so my hope is I can find that for a good sale in the near future, and I'll be able to have this whole 10 volume series and then tell you my thoughts. The other thing is that if you really want to read the series, it is currently on the Viz Media manga app that recently came out, and I really appreciate you put some of these out of print series. So this series is completely out of print. I don't know if it'll ever be reprinted, but my hope is I'll find volume 9 and 10 fairly soon. and at a good price. And I believe I saved the best for last for Out of Print. If you've been following me for a while, I have something called On the Road to Legend, and we have been journeying on that road, and we just took another step forward, my friends, with Barakurono Volume 9. And surprisingly, this is the first volume I have that's actually in very, very good condition. This is a series that is very, very out of print, hard to find. I'm 2 volumes away. I just need volume 7 now and volume 3. And let's go ahead and tell a little story. The other day, I actually found volume 3 for the cheapest I've ever seen, where it was on eBay in good condition for $118 with a coupon with taxes. It would be $118. Didn't want to pay $118 for it, but that's the cheapest I found it. The next cheapest I've ever found volume 3 was for $150 plus tax. That was an acceptable edition with a tear that did end up selling. So because of that, I hit add to cart. It was in my cart, hit the little PayPal link, and then on checkout, I went to hit checkout after that and immediately said, this has been sold. I was devastated. I was actually on eBay less than an hour before that. There was no volume 3. So this wasn't up for a full hour and someone snatched it away before I got it. That's okay. I just learned it's not meant to be. I will someday get volume 3. If you know someone who has a volume 3, let me know, as I would love to be able to complete this series. I'd love to be able to read this series physically. Yes, it is on the Viz Media new app that came out. I might have to do that for volume 3, but my hope is to be able to physically not only own it for the collection, but I can read and enjoy the series physically itself. But for the time being, I'm so happy I got volume 9, and we're now only missing volume 7 and 3. So that is all I have for the month of May. Thank you so much for sticking to the end of the video. If you'd like to see more content like this and other my antics, thoughts, reviews, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. That helps others know about this community that we are building together, and I appreciate the conversations you and I get to have from Discord in the comments below as we talk about different manga series. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.